Welcome to Numbering the Days channel, where it is week 37 on the ancient biblical calendar. We are focusing this week on the reconciliation of two brothers from the books of Jubilees and Genesis, and we compare the accounts, and there are a few eye-openers that I'm going to share with you today. As you can see, this week only has two events, Jacob and Esau reconciling and the birth of Jacob and Leah's son, Reuben. And it's fascinating to me how time and time again events overlap and reveal meaning. Reuben's name means behold a son. And in our language research, his name is connected to deep sight and seeing, to a word that is translated both children and son in scriptures. So in today's story, the brothers once again are seeing each other, and Esau sees all the children of his brother Jacob. I mean, just amazing. These connections and many more are made possible through the study of the book of Jubilees and our research into the Paleo-Hebrew language. And we make them every Friday on our weekly calendar episode. So in today's world of turmoil, chaos, and growing darkness, our hidden enemy of humanity is in hyperdrive, trying to pit us all against each other, while the one in the flesh is ignored. We all can pray for those entrapped in divisions to realize more truth and see through lies and help release the captives frozen in fear. They need to take action to protect lives, mothers and children, to walk towards the light and hear the call of the great shepherd. Is on the calendar this week to reconcile and take up the true battle that desperately needs us. We need to start crossing over and protect like Jacob was interested in protecting his women and children and his family. Mothers and children, clean food, safe shelter, love, true friendship, and a covenant that manifests the eternal kingdom of love and light. That's what's the order of the day. Please join us this week in prayer. Now let's go compare those stories. Let's get started. Okay, this is Sierra, and we're going to do this comparing of Genesis and Jubilees now. If you come study with us in our community, the PDF is available there for our members. And on our playlist, I just wanted to mention I've done a deep dive into comparing these two books, and there's a summary video on our playlist on the YouTube channel here. I'll put a description in the video. If you've not watched it and you find this interesting, you could watch all of the comparison there. Okay, chapters 32 and 33 in Genesis contain the story of Jacob and Esau's, their reconciliation, and I'm only going to go through some of the highlights, and I'm going to assume that you are familiar with this story. If you're not, you can always pause the video and read. On the left-hand column is the text. So when Jacob comes to cross over the Jordan and to meet his brother, he is referring to Esau as my Lord Esau. And in red I said, "Tell my Lord that I may find grace in thy sight." And I just wanted to point out that in the book of Jubilees, Jacob returns to his father and celebrates tabernacles. I mean, the stories in the two books are radically different. It's amazing how different they are. So here, Jacob is returning to Esau and calling him my Lord, and he fears him, and he hopes to find Esau's grace. This is not in the book of Jubilees told. I mean, never does Jacob talk about his brother in this manner. In the next section, Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed, and he divided his people. And the character differences, again, between the two books is really different. Jacob does not come across in Jubilees as a fearful man and doesn't approach his brother this way. Nor does he do any of what we are about to read in Jubilees. It really tells a different story. Okay, so Jacob is all afraid, and he's fearing his brother, and he prays out to Elohim because he's afraid. And in this version of the story, Jacob creates two bands. They just did not become, as it says over here, now I am become two bands. Well, he did the splitting. He did the dividing. And he's praying for deliverance because he's afraid of what's going to happen when he tries to go home. Okay, so he gives his servants a large flock of animals to cross over with and go before him as a gift. And then out of fear, he is sending this flock over. He assumes that Esau is really angry with him, and so he's trying to buy off the anger. He's trying to pay him off and say, don't do anything to us because I'm going to give you all these gifts. I mean, that's the bottom line here. And continuing down, by the time we get to verse 21, he is now sending his family across. And he's split up his wives so that the concubines and their sons go over first, and his 2 wives come over next. I mean, he split up his family. And then, and I, we will give him credit in here. He was worried for their safety, and that's one of the things that it would be, I mentioned in the intro, more people need to be worried about the safety of their family these days. So here's the famous story inserted right here of Jacob wrestling with the angel and having his name changed to Israel or Yasharel here before he meets his brother. Now, none of this is in the book of Jubilees, as the name of Jacob changing to Yasharel or Israel doesn't happen until the great 8th day after Jacob returns safely home to his father and pays his vow. I mean, the books can't be further apart in this part of the story. I mean, they're radically different. And in our Moedim videos, feast videos for the great 8th day, we talked about Jacob a lot and that part of the book of Jubilees. So Jacob, is lifting his eyes now. He's wrestled the angel. He's had his name changed, and the family has gone across. And he passes over before them and bows down on the ground 7 times until he came near to his brother. And Esau ran out to meet him and embraced him and fell on his neck and kissed him, and they wept. So Esau turns out in Genesis not to be angry. Jacob is bowing 7 times, which is symbolic of an oath, by the way, to my lord Esau on the ground. The brothers embrace, kissing and weeping, and the entire family then bows in submission to Esau. So then the text continues on, and he said, what meanest thou by all this drove which I have met, all the gifts you sent over me and all these people? And he said, these are to find grace in the sight of my Lord. Now, it may have been a custom back then to call everybody my Lord, but it's just hard in the English to read this. I wish they would have translated this better than to be calling everybody else my Lord, and then everybody prays today to the Lord. See the problem? So Esau said, I have enough, my brother. Keep thou hast unto thyself. So Esau doesn't want the livestock from Jacob. And Jacob insists he take them, and he wants Esau to be pleased with him, and says, seeing Esau is like seeing the face of God. Now, it says point blank in the English text, receive my present at my hand, for therefore I have seen thy face, as though I had seen the face of God, and thou wast pleased with me. Now, Esau, in the book of Jubilees, eventually takes the livestock. He does. And they go their separate ways. Now, I'm not going to go into the details of the story, but this is the scenario that Genesis is telling us. Okay. So we have almost 4 pages of material here reviewing the story in Genesis, and we have a whole section of the story where Jubilees puts the events somewhere else in time. Review the story in Jubilees. It's in chapter 29. Now, early on in chapter 29, Jacob and Laban are reconciling, and they make a covenant for peace. There won't be any more war on month 3, day 15, which is the feast of Shabbaoth, and that is missing in Genesis. So if you follow our Moedim feast series, you'll have heard about this because we talked about this during the Feast of Shavuot. So he's reconciled with Laban, and it says, and he passes over the Jabbok in the 9th month and on the 11th thereof. That's a tributary into the Jordan. So the 9th month on the 11th thereof. And on that day Esau his brother came to him, and he was reconciled to him, and departed from him to the land of Seir, and Jacob dwelt in tents. Now this is all there is, one verse. I know there is a multitude of videos on this famous date in our history on the Gregorian calendar. There's a big event on the 9th month, on the 11th day. I really find it fascinating that on this same day and month, on Father's ancient calendar, the reconciliation of the brothers takes place, don't you? I mean, we experience something in this world on the 9th month, on the 11th day, that was definitely not about reconciling anything. And yet on Father's calendar, that's the day that the reconciliation takes place, and that's this week's calendar. So what's missing? Sometimes you have to notice what is not in a story. There's no bowing down to Esau, no calling Esau my lord, no giving gifts to Esau in fear. I'm not saying that didn't take place, but it's not here in the book of Jubilees. What is here in the book of Jubilees, and I say that it's not in Jubilees because it's out of character. If you read the book of Jubilees, you would recognize that it's out of Jacob's character to have bowed down and been in so much fear of his brother. Okay, I know many teachers have said that Jubilees and Genesis are just the same and you don't need to really study the book of Jubilees. And I could not have a more different opinion, and I think it's totally worthy of study. The links are in the description. Some things I could say were just different viewpoints of the same story, but many things are just too different. Like in the book of, you noticed that here in Jubilees, it's missing. There's no renaming of Jacob here to Israel because it happens at a whole completely different time frame and event. It's not connected to the reconciliation of the brothers. If you are like me, you even consider that our enemy knows the book of Jubilees and pick the date for the reason of never wanting to reconcile, wanting to undo any reconciliation and start an attack. In the book of Jubilees, the sons of Esau clearly come after Jacob and his family, and the feud does not end anywhere in the book, because the sons of Esau didn't give up. Sadly, it is probably playing out right now if we only knew who everybody was. Really was. And I know everybody's got answers to answer that question, and I don't need to go there. I'm just saying, right now, a lot of people don't know who everybody is, and that's a problem. I hope this brief teaching inspires you to expand your viewpoints on the biblical history and read a book that had numerous copies found in the Dead Sea Scrolls. The traditional canon in many places quotes from this book. But also keep in mind you are reading an English translation that could have a viewpoint that's not yours, or deletions and insertions to lead you astray. We lament the wormwood and contaminated bread that we all have to deal with. We learn and teach scripture deep diving skills to help all of us in our quest for the real story as we walk out our salvation with fear and trembling. Come study with us, check out our online fellowship, and consider a Paleo-Hebrew language course, either in a group setting or on your own. We can accommodate both groups and individuals. Please click like and leave us a comment. Without your actions, our video, no matter how much you may like it, does not get shown to as many people as when you click like and leave us a comment. Shalom. Takes a break, he's always right.